The third race of the season saw some fresh faces on the podium. Pole sitter Niranjan hoped to make the most of the extra experience he had at the Madras motor race track over his competitors and turn it into a race win. But Keith made a better claim at the top step and went on to build a good gap over the pack to grab his first victory in the Vento Cup. Karminder Singh made calculated moves and finished third after having started sixth on the grid.
Pits to Podiums. We're still at the Madras Motor Racetrack, all set to witness the fourth race of the season. The sun is still shining bright, the cars are raring to go, and the drivers are all set to repeat all the action from the last race at this very track.
As a part of their driver exchange program, Volkswagen Motorsport India sent the overall champion of the Volkswagen Vento Cup to drive as a guest driver in one race weekends of an international Volkswagen racing series. Under the same program, two young drivers from Volkswagen Polo Cup China have driven as guest drivers in the Vento Cup this weekend. And here's what one of them had to say about his racing experience in India.
My name is He Xixi and I'm the second leader in the Polo Cup in China this year. I think the car is quite good with even the power and the balance, and it's quite easy to get on with. I think it's a quite fun track, and there's a lot of corners and carry with high speed corners and some chicane, so there's a lot of fun in it. The environment of the racing here is quite good, and if I have chance, I would come to India for sure. Yeah. Some of the drivers quite familiar with the track, so they did quite good lap time, and I'm trying to catch up with them with the lap time. So, trying my best to.
Now, Vento Cup, as the name suggests, runs on the cup format in motorsport, wherein all the cars are of the same make and same technical specifications, meaning the drivers cannot change any specifications under the hood of the car. But what they can change is air pressure, anti-roll bar settings, and can rotate the wheels. But what we really need to know is what difference does that make? These different settings, what are they and how does that affect the driving style? For that, we have the Chief Race Engineer at Volkswagen Motorsport India, Mr. Ranjit Kanmetsa, joining us here. We'll talk to him about this and a lot more. Thank you for joining. Now, let me know what all are these different settings and what is different about each of these settings.
In terms of overall changes allowed to a driver, we allow them tire pressure changes in all the tires. There is a hard, medium and a soft, and both the anti-roll bar and the tire pressures are primarily working with driving style. So the anti-roll bar that we allow is only on the front. So there is a certain aspect of bringing the car towards the driving style that's already available with the driver, so that not all the changes are being made only by the driver. There is some that the car can be moved on to something that he likes. So we have 6 sets of tires for each race weekend, and they are free to rotate how they want, because some drivers are better off using tires that have run once, that have gone through a heat treatment process once, or some drivers are very particular towards using brand new sets on qualifying, which will give them a great first lap qualifying time. So all of these are usually available to the driver in terms of what they can do, not only to bring the car towards their driving style, but also what they can do in terms of strategy over a race weekend. All the cars have data loggers and dashes fitted specifically for the racing purpose, and the data basically logs everything that has a sensor on it, whether it's the engine, gearbox, wheel speeds, all of that as a log file, which can be downloaded and which is distributed to each of the drivers after each session. They are not only given their data, but they're also given the fastest driver's data. So they know exactly where they need to find time or where they need to improve to better themselves over the race weekend. So we are giving a fair chance to even the last few people, where they have equal opportunity along with the, scientific data to see where they need to make changes and where they need to improve.
Well, thank you for your inputs. We will now go to another engineer at Volkswagen Motorsport India and get to know the data logger and the data collected a little more in detail.
After the cars pull into the pits post a driving session, driving data from each one of them is collected for an analysis by the driver. The data collected lets the drivers understand how they are performing around various corners of the track, and also helps the engineers to map the performance of the race cars' engines, brakes, suspensions, etc. The data collected from their respective race car gives the drivers information like their best lap times, along with other driver inputs like brakes, gas pressure, gear inputs and speed. So, the drivers can then analyze if they are braking too early or driving in a higher gear, or are making any other mistake. Drivers can compare their data with that of the race winner and understand the mistakes they made that cost them the race win.
Break, but don't go anywhere as we follow the 4th race of the season for Vento Cup. Keep watching. So here we are on the track. The cars have taken their positions on the grid and we are about to start the 4th race of the season, the 2nd race of the weekend of the Vento Cup. So here we are on the track, the cars have taken their positions on the grid and we are about to start the fourth race of the season, the second race of the weekend of the Vento Cup. We have Rayo with us for his expert comments. Rayo, Keith and Niranjan, both experienced drivers at this track, showed what it means to have experience on this track in tricky situations. But now the situation for this race is such that two guest drivers are driving up front, followed by Ishan. Ishan should not have much problem overtaking them and grabbing the race lead. What do you say?
Yes, definitely. The only thing is that both the drivers who've come from China, they're going to be very excited of starting first and second. And they're going to be very aggressive, I'm sure, in defending that position. So it's not going to be easy for Ishan to overtake them, especially given that off the racing line, it's quite difficult to pass right now with the current conditions.
Right.
So Ishan would be my bet, but expect the Chinese drivers to make it very, very difficult for him.
In fact, Sirish Chandran, who's a guest driver in this race, is also very competitive. He's starting right behind Ishan, but definitely would give him a fight for sure in the race.
100%. It's just that he probably does not have the kind of racing experience that Ishan has. I'm sure Sirish is loving the conditions that are there right now, and with his rally experience, of course. So he is also going to be there to take any kind of mistake that happens amongst any of these guys. And don't forget, Karminder is not too far behind. He's the guy who's actually making the most number of overtaking moves, especially in the reverse grid races. So expect him to come up front pretty fast as well.
Let's talk about last race's winners. Keith and Niranjan, both of them start behind, in the behind the order. But both of them are very aggressive. Do you think they have a chance to come up in the front, looking at number of people and the experienced people that are there between them?
Well, both of them do have the pace. Keith for sure looks like he will make up quite a few races. Niranjan might be a little bit more conservative given the conditions right now on track. So it all depends on what happens up front. If the two Chinese drivers can manage to hold back Ishan and Sirish right behind them for 2 or 3 laps, you're going to see a really, really exciting race.
Sure, the standings have definitely been shuffled after the last race results, but there's still a lot more to go. There's this race, there's another race this weekend. A lot is still at stake. We wish all the drivers the very best, and may we see fresh faces on the podium. May the best person win.
The second race started under extremely hot conditions, with air temperatures above 35 degrees Celsius and temperatures inside the car going well above 50 degrees. It was not an easy day to race. Yet the second race of the weekend saw a lot of nerve-wracking driving from all the racers on the grid. The front row on the grid was taken by both the Chinese guest drivers, Li Huai and He Xixi. Title favourites Ishan Dodiwala and Karminder Pal Singh started in 3rd and 6th positions respectively. Between them was guest driver Sirish Chandran in 4th and Aditya Pawar in 5th position. As the lights went off, Lee took a hold shot and drove hard to build a strong lead ahead of the other drivers. He Xixi stayed behind and defended his position for 3 laps before Ishan overtook him to get into the battle for victory. By then, Lee had built a lead of more than 4 seconds over Ishan. Ishan was persistent and kept giving his best. As both of them entered the last lap, there was 0.6 seconds gap between them. Li Huai made a small mistake in the first section of the circuit, and that allowed Ishan to take the lead, which he then carried to the checkered flag. Behind the top two was a five-way battle for the third position between Chinese guest driver He Xixi, Aditya Pawar, guest driver Shirish Chandran, Karminder Pal Singh and Keith D'Souza. Aditya Pawar and He Xixi got involved in a collision which put both of them out of the battle. Shirish Chandran put up a great fight and emerged third, ahead of the seasoned drivers Karminder and Keith.
I started third. I had two guest drivers ahead of me, so in terms of the championship, I knew if I still finish third, I can get points for first. So that was my thinking going into the race, but you know, the racing instinct doesn't die down, and I was always going to try and go for the outright win.
It was a difficult race. At the start, I managed to hold on to my position, but then we were in such a tight group and everybody was pushing and really pushing hard, nudging each other. I got hit from the back twice. The second time I lost 2 places, but then I managed to make that up later on. It was a very tough race towards the end. It was very slippery. The car was all over the place. On the penultimate corner, I had a big moment coming onto the main straight, but it was good. I thought I was running fourth, but when I came in, they told me I was third, so that was a welcome surprise. And it's good to be on the podium in your very first race weekend. So I'm really happy and excited about it.
But don't go anywhere. We have a lot of interesting bits and pieces on the other side. Keep watching Pits to Podium.
Let's take a look at the races in the other categories. The second race in the MRF Formula 1600 class was dominated by Anandit Reddy, with Raghul Rangaswamy finishing in a close second and Chennai driver Sandeep Kumar completing the podium. For race 1 winner Vikash Anand, it was an up and down day. After having won the first race on Saturday, Anand struggled in the second and finished a distant 6th after a couple of off-track excursions while Hyderabad's Anandit Reddy took the honours. In the ITC category, Arjun Narendran started the second and fourth on the reverse grid, but moved to the front in the very first lap and went on to score another comfortable win. Veteran driver N. Leela Krishnan finished second in the race, followed by Race Concepts' Deepak Paul Chinappa. The Indian Junior Touring Cars race saw a straight battle between the two championship contenders, Anant Pitawala from Mumbai and Goan driver Keith D'Souza. However, Anant maintained his dominance throughout the race and Keith had to settle for the second position on the podium. S. Sri Hariram finished third. Raghul Rangaswamy expectedly won the F1300 Rookie Championship race to complete a double despite going off the track when leading midway through the 8th lapper. Arya Singh finished second in the second race of the weekend, followed by C. Tejas Ram. Deepak Ravikumar won the second race of the weekend in the Super Stock category, with Dean Mascarenhas finishing second and Chandresh Tolia completing the podium.
Basically, the surface of the track is unpredictable, so we have to adapt to the track each and every single lap for every corner. The car is behaving differently every single lap.
It was a nice race. Track is really good right now. Of course, there has been some resurfacing on the track, so there are some bumps along the track, but I think it was a nice race for me as well. I started third on the grid because of the reverse order, and I finished second. Had a really nice battle with Alex, Tejas and Rahul. Of course, congrats to him for the race win.
I had a decent race. First couple of laps were really good, and then I was on pace, but the guy behind me was pressurizing me. And then at one point he almost T-boned me, and so I had to avoid him by going off track.
Cars back into the pits in this episode of Pits to Podiums. You can join us in the next episode as we follow the 5th race of the season. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter for all live feeds and updates, and on Instagram for some cool pictures. You can also download our app now and join the community. The details of the app are given on your screen. Till then, thank you so much for watching, and remember, as they say, there's no glory in practice, but without practice, there is no glory.
In the next episode, the fight will get more intense as the positions in the overall standings have shuffled post the 4th race of the season. With most of the drivers having gotten enough experience at the Madras Motor Race track, one could see them pushing harder and giving closer fights to their competitors. Join us and follow the 5th race of the season.